Hello everyone and welcome to Shauna Stitches podcast. This is episode number 25, which I feel like is a big milestone, especially considering I thought about quitting there for a while. And today is September 17th, 2017. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to talk about some knitting, yarn, projects, finished objects, works in progress, all that good stuff. Cody is in the room with me, plus there's Fiona and Rudy, who are two chihuahuas running around the house, so don't be surprised if you hear them. If you have watched me before, you'll notice I changed my setup just a little bit, and you can see some of my yarn right here. This was a very last minute kind of set change, so that's all my acrylic yarn. So I need to change that, so all my pretty stuff's over there, hide the acrylic stuff over here. And it will look better. And I also hung up my Find Your Fade shawl, which doesn't look, at least from what I can see, doesn't look great on the camera, but at least it adds a little bit of visual whatever. You can see something other than just my face in the screen. Today I am drinking some Stash tea, salted caramel mate, herbal, and black tea. I don't know if I'm saying mate right. It might be matte, but I think it's mate. And that is in my Washington Starbucks mug, which is Washington State, in case you were wondering. I'm trying not to spill this on myself while I show you. What else? Oh, where can you find me? You're probably watching this on YouTube, and if you are, it is my YouTube page is called Shauna Stitches Podcast. I have a Ravelry group called The Same Thing. My Ravelry username is Shauna Stitches. There you can go see all my projects. I make a page for every project I do, and I quite often put notes in there. So if you have any questions on anything that you see, or you're curious about things I've made in the past, there should be a project page there. However, if you don't see something or you have a question that isn't answered, please feel free to contact me. You can contact me here under the video or on Ravelry, Instagram, anywhere. Speaking of Instagram, you can find me there as well, Shauna Stitches, and I also have a Facebook page. I'm not terribly active on the Facebook page, but I do try and post when I finish a project. Instagram is the best place to see projects I'm working on as I go. All right. One thing that I have failed to mention during my last two podcasts is that I have a CAL currently running. And I think partially because I haven't mentioned it, I don't have a lot of entries. The CAL is currently running till October 31st, so you have plenty of time. I can always extend that deadline. But it is for any afterthought sock that you do. So basically I just want you to knit a sock tube and turn it into 2 socks. I do have a pattern that's out for that. The pattern's free. It's called 1 Sock, 2 Sock Magic Recipe. And feel free to use that or any method that you can come up to get to making 2 socks out of 1 sock, if that makes sense. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. There are guidelines written in the chatter and the FO thread as well under the Ravelry group page. So if you have any questions about that, check there first, then go ahead and ask. What else? I think that's all the starting stuff. I have a lot of stuff to show today, and part of that is because one week I podcasted 2 weeks ago, so the first week I was still on staycation, which was wonderful, and then the second week I've been back to work, so less productivity done when I have to go to work every day. It sucks that we have to make money, right? So 3 finished objects to show you today. I'm going to start with one that I am pretty excited about. This is for a coworker. It is the waffle hat pattern, which is exactly the same as the blueberry waffle socks. If you've ever done a pair of those, it's a very easy 4 pattern repeat, and it's a free pattern. So I'll go ahead and tell you the 4 pattern repeat consists of row 1 and 2 are knit, and row 3 and 4 are knit 2, purl 2. So super easy. The difficult part I had with this was my coworker wanted the bun hat. There you can see there's a hole at the top. It's hard to see with black. And backstory, she asked for this hat a year ago. We both have jobs where we work outside and it gets cold here, so she asked for this hat. She always wears her hair up in a bun, kind of like how I have mine today, really big messy bun, and she has longer and thicker hair than I do, so it gets pretty substantial. And she had asked for a crocheted pattern, not specifically by crochet, but she found a picture that she liked. And she said, hey, can you make this? And I was like, sure. So it was a paid for pattern. I don't even remember what it's called. However, it's in my library somewhere. But I started crocheting this. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a very proficient crocheter. I started crocheting long before I ever knew how to knit. So me knowing and understanding the pattern was not the issue. Anyway, this had you do a flat section for what would be the brim of the hat, and then seam that together and then crochet up. And I did the first one, put it on me. I have a very small head, so I put it on me and it was tight. So I ripped it all out, I added some stitches, I did it again, I put it on me, it's still tight. And so I texted her and I was like, do you have a big head or a little head? And she said her head was on the bigger side, so I knew it wasn't gonna work. And literally, you know how it is when you're done with a project, you don't want to work on it. I set it aside for the last year. So fast forward to, what was my last shift? My last shift was Thursday night into Friday morning, and it was cold. And I wasn't working with this particular coworker on this night, but I'm thinking to myself, I want a hat. And I feel like I can't really make myself a hat unless I make hers first, just because she asked me so long ago. So I went ahead and whipped this up, and like I said, the difficult part for me was I couldn't find a good pattern that really explained the bun decrease or the bun opening, and I went by some guidelines online. They said to knit to 5 inches and then do your decreases, and that wasn't working. So I think it's in my project notes. I can't remember how many inches I did before doing the decreases, but I ended up doing 8 pattern repeats of this pattern, and then I did decreases. The last row that I worked was all knit, so I did a Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off, which you can see there is some stretch there. I will try to put this on. It's probably going to mess up my hair for the rest of the episode, but I will say there's a little bit of a trick to putting on a bun hat. It's not just your standard put on a hat thing, so see if I can get this here. There we go. So you can see how it fits. Nice messy bun sticking out, and yeah. I did do a folded brim, so I knit the brim portion to 4 inches before turning it around, and you're not gonna be able to see it well at all. But anyway, I knit the two together, so it's a permanent folded brim. Yeah, my hair is a mess. Oh well. You don't come here because I'm pretty, right? Anyway, so I did the 4 inches of 2x2 rib, folded it over, 8 pattern repeats, did the decreases just as it states in the pattern, but I stopped at a certain point and I can't remember what row that was, but check my page notes, it's all there. Brim, I used a 4mm knitting needle, and I went to 4.5 for this. I originally started with a 5mm and it just seemed a little too airy. This is knit in Cascade 220 Superwash. I feel like it's kind of a thinner worsted weight, so 5mm might be fine on a regular worsted yarn, but I don't know. So anyway, very happy with that. I'm excited to be able to give it to her a year later. All right, next finished object are a pair of socks for Glenn. I'm sure that I've shown you at least one of these. Just a plain vanilla sock with some Ice Yarns mini sock. Their mini sock comes in 50-gram balls. It is 70 rows of leg. I did an afterthought heel, and I forget how many rows I did for the foot. Enough to fit a size 14 men's shoe. And then I did the rounded toe that I was talking about. And this is the one, pretty sure, yeah, this is the one that I took a picture on Instagram and I put my toe in here and just snugged it up. I like this toe. You can see a few places here where I've decreased, but for the most part, I mean, I haven't actually worn a pair yet, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be any really pronounced areas that might bug your feet or your toes or anything like that. And I really like the fact it doesn't have the side seam. So I think this is going to be my go-to. I don't even know. I think it's going to be my go-to toe for a while. And these were knit on a 2.5 millimeter needle, 72 stitches around. So quite a lot of knitting. If you do check my Instagram, these I knit mostly while walking on my treadmill. So that's cool. I've been doing a lot of walk and knit lately, which is good because I'm down like 8 pounds. Not just from that, it's from previous, I lost a few, but I'm definitely down some more, and I like the activity, although I will say this weekend I've been a lazy bum. It happens. I think it's partially the weather. Just a little tangent, speaking of weather, as you probably are aware, there have been a lot of fires here in Oregon, Washington as well, Canada, but we finally have a dreary, nasty, wet day today, but I think the lighting's still pretty good. I have a lot of light coming in this window that's right in front, or right behind my iPad. But yeah, we're finally getting rain. It's not supposed to be super rainy today, but in the next 2 days we're supposed to get over an inch a day. So normally I might complain about that a little bit, but I feel like we definitely need it. So it's a good thing. All right, finished object number 3. It's the last one. I love these. So these are my in-line for pumpkin spice latte socks. There are 2 of them. So you'll notice the way that I have them on the sock blocker, if I don't drop it, you have a bigger cable here, and then you have these littler cables here. And if I show you an up close, they look like pumpkins. So cute. I absolutely love these. I actually did a heel flap and gusset. I used the heel flap and gusset from Hermione's Everyday Sock. It's a free pattern, which has a little garter ridge right here on the outside of the Eye of Partridge heel flap. I mentioned on the pair of socks for Glenn that I did a rounded toe. I did the same thing on these, which I think looks really nice. So I'm just really still trying to figure out my favorite sock. I've done the afterthought heel a few times, and I guess the nice thing about Glenn wearing his socks right away is that I get feedback from him. And he doesn't dislike the afterthought heel, but I think he definitely would like something else better. So on his next pair of socks, I'm going to go for a heel flap and gusset of some sort. And I'm really curious to see how this fits me as well. I have only done one heel flap and gusset previously. That was on a pair of Rose City rollers, and I really like the way those fit me. So I don't know. I have to say that I feel like the drawback to doing a box of socks where you save your socks for the entire year is that you don't get that instantaneous feedback of, does this work for me, does it not work for me? Or, not even does it work, but do I like this? Do I like something better? So I've done a lot of afterthought heels. I really enjoy the knitting process of the afterthought heel. I like the fact that I don't have to just stop in the middle of, the sock to put a heel in, but I don't know if it's the best thing. So yeah, I'm just going to play around with that a little bit. It'll be really interesting once January comes around and I'm wearing my socks. And yes, I know it's a self-imposed thing. I could wear my socks, but I don't know. It's kind of fun to start the new year with new socks to wear and to save them up. I did forget to mention that this is the 10th pair in my box this year. And I think I have knit Glenn 6 pairs. So yeah, I've done a lot of socks so far. Just check my notes here. I think that is it for my finished objects. I do have 2 works in progress. The first one is another sock. And this I'm calling my Monster Mash sock. It is knit using 2 different yarns. These are both Lion Brand Sockies. I don't remember. Red Hots, I think, is what this one's called. And this one is Sour Ball. So I have been striping these every 4 rounds. Dog hair. Every 4 rounds, and you can see like this one here by my finger, because the Sour Ball has some different colors in it, it kind of creates a little different effect. It's not just plain stripes, I guess. I am not exactly loving the seam of this. I've never done this before using 2 yarns. What I've been doing is, one way to prevent the jog, you do, for your new color, you do 1 round, and on the very first stitch of round 2 of that color, you lift up the leg below, the right leg, put it on the needle, and you knit it with the first stitch. Which definitely does get rid of the jog, you can see. But, yeah, they're really looking kind of lumpy. I don't really care. I mean, honestly, I don't think I'm going to notice on my foot. But I feel like I've seen other people's not look that lumpy, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong particularly. You can also see on the inside of the sock, I'm just kind of trying to twist the yarns together to carry them down the leg, which I may or may not actually have to do, and that might be part of the reason I'm getting the lumpiness. I might try just carrying it down without crossing it over. I'm just a little concerned that that might cause it to pull if I have too tight of a tension, which I tend to have a very tight knitting tension. So yeah, I don't know. And then the other thing is going to look very familiar. This here is another waffle hat, and this one here is going to be for me. I am not doing the bun part of it, although I do always wear my hair up in a bun at work. I decided I'd just rather make it a little slouchy to put the bun inside. I think that will be warmer and nicer for me. So, and you know what? The great thing about being a knitter is that I can always make the bun one later if I want, but I think this is my preference for now. So you can see it looks very much the same. It's the same waffle pattern, exactly the same. I think I did the brim just a little bit longer, but same exact needle sizes. And I have now done 10 repeats of the pattern. I think I'm going to do 11 or 12. It's a little difficult to know exactly when to stop to have the right amount of slouch considering the decreases. So I'd rather have too much than too little. I can't think of anything else to say about that because I pretty much already told you everything. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I want to get started on and what I probably am going to start today. Even though I have projects I should be working on, I seriously cannot stop thinking about working on this Shifting Shadows cowl kit. This is the one that I showed last podcast that Glenn got me for my birthday. And with the colder weather, all I want to do is wear nice warm stuff. There's the colors that he got me. These are all Malabrigo lace. And yeah, I think I'm going to cast that on. And who knows when it will actually be finished, but anyways, I just dropped all the tags on the floor. My other dream knitting is some brioche. I have never ever knit brioche. I really want to give it a shot. I'm excited to learn it. I probably won't cast this on the same time as my cowl. I'll probably do my cowl first, but no promises. You never know. I just see so many people doing brioche. I'm loving brioche, and there's the What the Fade cowl out right now, and it's gorgeous. I don't have yarn for it, I don't think, but yeah, it's really pretty. So the first project I'm going to do brioche is the Le Mole. I know I'm saying that wrong, but it's the Squishy Shawl by Mina Phillip, which I will insert a picture so that you can see what that looks like. And I do have some yarn in my stash that I want to use for this. So obviously it's a 2-color brioche. if you remember, I was working on the Persian Dreams blanket. I mean, you'd have to go way back to remember that, but I was. I won't say that I've scrapped the project completely, but I know I can get more yarn for it, and I'm just not really into it right now. So I have a lot of Knit Picks Chroma fingering, the singles. And what I want to do is use this yarn to make some brioche shawls, because obviously I wouldn't be using this for socks, and singles I've heard is really great for shawl knitting. So the colors I have are Groovy, Get Your Neon, which looks really yellow here, but there is pink and green. These two are very similar, but different, and that's why I had them for my Persian Dream, so it was all cohesive. And the third color I have is Pegasus. So one of these colors is going to be mixed with a natural color, which is totally getting blown out. It's just a white undyed yarn to make the Le Mollet. I don't know which one yet, but that's okay because I want to make the the Sizzle Pop shawl. So one will be the squishy, one will be Sizzle Pop eventually. That is, I guess, if I can figure out how to do brioche and if I like it. But the Sizzle Pop is beautiful. I just don't think it's a great place to start because it looks kind of difficult. So yeah, and then hopefully once I get that down, way down the road, maybe I'll do a What the Fade, or I'm sure there'll be a million other brioche projects by then because it really seems popular. I guess I should have mentioned this during whips, but I do have one other thing I'm working on. I'm not going to show it today. I may never show it, to be quite honest, but I am actually trying to design a shawl pattern. I won't say it's a difficult shawl, but writing it's very intense because the way it is in my head, I'm going to have over 10 different sections of the shawl. So just trying to figure out stitch count and how that plays together with the pattern, it's kind of making my brain hurt. So I managed to finish the third section. I started the fourth section, and I will be ripping the fourth section out. I screwed it up, and I'm not sure that it's the pattern that I actually want for that. So it's been set aside for a few days. It may be set aside for a few months. I don't know. I'm not in a huge rush, but it is kind of interesting. It's definitely a lot different than designing a sock, which obviously I've never really designed a sock pattern. I've only done sock techniques, so it's pretty interesting. But we'll see if that ever turns into anything. And I may show it down the road, but we'll see. The last thing I have to talk to you about is some yarn dyeing. So I always watch the 10,000 Stitches podcast by Andy. I really enjoy her podcast, and if you haven't checked it out yet, you definitely should. She does a lot of what she calls small scale knitting. Originally when I first started watching her, it was all socks, but she has branched over doing hats and scarves and shawls and stuff like that. So she's even done at least one sweater, I think, or she's working on it anyway. But she recently did a tutorial for how to dye yarn in a crock pot. And I've never been super scared of trying to dye yarn on the stove pot, but the crock pot just seems super simple, no-brainer. I don't have to worry about it getting too hot. It's perfect. So I thought I would give that a shot. So the first one that I did, I went through my stash of yarn and found something that was light in color, which was this color. This is Ice Yarn's Magic Sock. It's a self-striping, and they don't really have color names, but this one is light blue, pink, orange, maybe a little bit of purple in there. And I really wanted to do a Halloween yarn. So I figured that orange and green would be good. So I took my red and yellow dyes, just food dyes, and mixed those together till I got an orange that I liked, and loosely skeined up my yarn like she tells you to do. And I put it in. I did orange first. Then I unskeined it, and it was still laying in the water, and I added green, and I ended up having to add green like 4 different times because I just wasn't getting exactly what I was trying to get. And eventually I just quit because it still wasn't turning out how I wanted it. But anyway, this is how that turned out. And I do have a picture of each of these skeined rather than, you know, one like this and one in a cake. So I will insert a photo of that here. But you can see it's quite different. When I say I wasn't getting what I wanted, you can still see pops of blue and pink in here, which I was hoping to go for completely over-dyed, where that didn't show through. But in general, I think it worked out okay. I still have a lot to learn. If I was going to do this again, I would do the green first and then open it and do orange, because the orange got pretty muddy. It's more brownish, but it is still orange. So I'm really excited to knit this up and see what it turns into. I'm calling it Swamp Monster because that just seems appropriate. And I also said that the socks I make out of this will be called my ugly socks. So it might be my Swamp Monster ugly socks. And yes, I know, I'm being hard on myself. It doesn't look bad. To be quite honest, you know, as long as the socks are keeping my feet warm, I'm not terribly picky. Now, would I be picky if I ordered something like this from someone? Probably. But the nice thing about the ice yarn is that when I order this, it comes with 4 of these. 400-gram balls is the minimum order. So, you know, I feel like I can knit one just like this and play around with some of the others. And it just kind of gives me the freedom of feeling like if I screw up, it's not the end of the world. So that's always a good thing. And then the other one I just did yesterday. And let me pull out this. Sorry about that. So we have this one, which is Ice Yarn's mini sock, and this is a 50-gram ball. This is what it knits up like, Glen's sock that I just did. So it is a self-striping with 3 different colors of green, and then a white and black speckle. So I took this, I took 2 of them, and I skeined it up and decided I wanted to add red because I wanted some Christmas socks. So this is how that turned out. And obviously I assume it will still kind of look like a self-striping when I knit it up, but it could look different. Who knows? And here's the other one. This one isn't nearly as pretty. I don't know what happened when I was trying to skein it, but it doesn't look good. So I'm excited to recake these to see what that looks like. However, they are still just a little bit damp. And I don't want to be winding it up when, I don't know what would happen. It would mold or something. So yeah, you see I added just some red. I feel like some of the red looks a little pink, but I think it's going to work out pretty good. And again, because those are 50-gram balls, I actually got 8 of them. I used some for a giveaway. I've made Glen socks and dyed these, and then I still have 2 left. So yeah, it takes the pressure off of feeling like if I screw it up, I'll never get it back or never be able to order it again or whatever. So I like that. Okay, the last little bit of yarn, knitting, whatever talk is the status of my yarn diet, if you will, or keeping track of my yarn purchases. It today has been 40 days since I have purchased yarn, which is amazing because all the time that I crocheted, all the time that I've knit, I don't think I've ever gone 40 days without buying yarn. And I'm really enjoying using stuff from my stash. I'm enjoying learning different ways or looking at my stash differently. Already in the last 40 days, I can tell you one thing that has really excuse me, my throat is like yucky today. One thing that I have noticed that I will change in the future is how I buy yarn. I do think in the future I will buy with a project in mind, at least somewhat, rather than just all these pretty single skeins of sock yarn. I also think I'm going to buy a lot more solid colors because when it comes to trying to make a shawl or something, I just have nothing in my stash. And probably when I first started knitting, I wasn't thinking about knitting shawls, so a lot of the stuff I bought you know, with only socks in mind, but when you have, I don't know, I'm only going to take a guess here. I don't know how many skeins I actually have, but when you have 150 skeins of sock yarn, you know, that A, that's a lot of socks, and B, you might actually want to knit something else at some point. So that 40 days, I have used 13 skeins out of my stash, which when that has finished, it's going to get done today. That will be number 14. And 7 projects completed, which again, once that has done, that will be project number 8. So I feel like that is a lot of progress. Again, I did have the staycation, but it's a lot of progress, and I am feeling still really motivated about the yarn diet and using up some of my stash. It makes me really happy. And that was a huge reason that I did dye this, because I know I don't have any Christmas yarn in my stash. I won't say that I hate red, but I don't love red. I'm not drawn to red. Red is not a color that I would buy. So like if I saw this in the store, or you know, a prettier version of this, if I saw something like this, I just wouldn't be drawn to it unless I was specifically looking for a Christmas yarn. And I don't have red for, you know, matching heels, cuffs, and toes. I don't have anything like that. So yeah, I'm learning different ways to use my stash, and it's really kind of exciting. And I really cannot wait to start that squishy shawl. I hope I can figure out brioche. I've watched a few tutorials in the past. It looks fairly straightforward, although just getting the stitch rhythm down I think will take a little time. But I think I can do it, so we'll see. Alright, so that is it with the knitting. I have just a little bit of other stuff to talk about, which should be fairly short. So Glenn and I went and saw It last night, the movie It, and it's a book written by Stephen King. In fact, I have the book here. I don't know when the book, I don't know if this is going to tell me when the book actually first came out. Or if it will just say when this one was, this edition was printed. 1986, so that's quite a while ago. This is the copy I have. I've never read this. I have never watched the original. I haven't watched the miniseries. So we went and watched the movie last night not really knowing, and I'm not going to spoil anything, even though you probably all are semi-familiar with it. But there's more than one time frame, whatever, and so I'm really wanting to read this because the movie doesn't address all that, and I have it from a good source that says that this does. But you see, it's a huge book, and I'm not scared of big books, but I'll be honest, since I started knitting, I barely ever read, which is really sad. I love to read, but I feel like there's not enough time to get everything done, and that's on me. I impose that on myself. I want to get projects done. I don't want to get behind my schedule, so to speak. So I've really put reading by the wayside. So anyway, we'll see if I can get through some of this. It's, oh my god, it's over 1,000 pages. That might be the, no, I've read The Stand. I'm a big Stephen King fan. I've read quite a bit of Stephen King, but that's a pretty big book. So anyway, I'd like to start that. We did enjoy the movie. I personally didn't think it was very scary. So, I don't know. I don't have a huge fear of clowns. I mean, it wasn't a cool clown in the movie, but yeah, I think there's only like one little part where I jumped. But anyway, it was fun. Go see it if you want to check it out. There are some good looking Halloween-ish type scary movies coming out, which I'm really excited about. I like scary, but I don't like gruesome. So like Saw or something along those lines where it's just like mutilating people and torturing them and that kind of thing I really don't like. But just scary, I like scary. Alright guys, I can't think of anything else. Thanks for watching. You guys have a good day. Bye.